Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Paranormal Lens. I am Jamie Widener. I'll be your host for the evening, along with Chad Thomas and Kirstin Dracano. Those are one of those two each. Go figure
We're,
it out
we're here
yourself.
somewhere.
Yeah, you're there. I see you. So, guys, what's happening? How was your week?
Well, I'm alive.
All
um,
right. I love when questions lead with laughter first. That means there's a story.
it's been a very long weekend. Um, yeah, Friday I came down with neurovirus, and so did my husband.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
that's been a lot of recovery, and now it's been helping our daughter get over neurovirus and COVID.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a lot.
That is everything, right?
Yeah.
You know how easy it is to spread. So,
Hmm.
that's to expect. Just you wait. Your toddler going to daycare, childcare days are coming.
I mean, she's
So
already in daycare, so
yeah, and everybody comes home with everything. So, oh, goodness.
oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But we're here in a new year now. So we've got that going for us.
It's true. We did survive 2025. Congratulations, everyone.
Oh,
I don't think there was any doubt we were going to make it. Right? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably. I don't know. Yeah, it honestly for me it's this week has been I used to say this a lot, but today was the Monday Tuesday ever, but it really was, and it ended with I work in a sales team, this kind of stuff, and it ended with an hour and 20-minute phone call with a customer, uh, who was probably one that if I'm glad it was him and the guy that it was, just for the humor that he brought to the conversation and just the general niceness of it. Um, but it came while, and I told him this, it came while I was getting a text message after a text message after a text message and a couple phone calls from home about a cat being stuck on my house roof. And okay, I I can't answer this. I can't respond to this. I'm committed to the call I'm on, and I was trying to read the text at least, and I said to him, he's like, I'm really sorry I took so much of your time. I'm really glad you did because there's a situation going on at home where there's a cat on my roof, and
Uh-huh.
I'm getting I'm not there to have to deal with it. So it's a learning time, right, for everyone. So it got resolved. A can of tuna was found, and somehow the cat made it down. I don't know how. I don't want to know. The
Uh-huh.
tuna's now gone, so I'm assuming the cat ate it. But oh my gosh, like the humor of it all. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you can't make this stuff up. I have pictures. I've seen pictures anyway of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's real, and of course, of all things, it's a black cat. So,
So
but it's a neighborhood cat. It lives here, and it's common, so it's friendly. But how it got on my roof, I don't know.
my theory is if it found a way up, it'll find a way down.
Yeah.
So
And well, goodness, it's not a summer thing, and I don't have a tin roof, but I did think of the play.
cat on a hot tin roof.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So
So
well, shout out to Bert there who's speaking to us in Irish.
it's a little Gaelic going on here.
Uh-huh.
Hello, you too, sir.
So
Well, speaking of Irish, that's a good
yeah.
segue, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. It might be. Maybe, I'm not going to be speaking any Gaelic tonight. I'm going to be honest, but I'm going to talk a little bit about a special place in Ireland called Spike Island. Now, before I go too far, have you guys heard of this before?
No.
Nope.
Other than prepping the promo stuff and
Nope.
okay, I had neither. Um, and I'll be honest, I was watching an episode of Expedition Unknown, the Josh Gates show
Mm-hmm.
in the fall, early winter. I guess it was late fall, and the team went there. And it's a special case when Gates, or it was Expedition X, one or the other. And you'll find it if you Google it. But it's a special case when Gates himself goes to these places anymore with that other team, with his Expedition X team. So all three went, and it is to me one of those places that is amazing because it isn't known. or at least not to us. And we're far away, right? We're here in the U.S. It's in Ireland. It's in, Cork, County Cork, fairly near the city of Cork. Um, but it is one of those places that is so deep in history, like everything in Europe is. But it goes back so far, and it has had so many turnovers of transition of what it has been and what's happened, that it's amazing. And just for the history side alone. So I'll start there. And of course, we're going to get to the paranormal at the end of it. And then we'll discuss it, we always do. So let's get there. And we've already got some slides running. So you guys who are watching with us, you'll get some good visuals of the place. So where are we in the world? We're on Spike Island in County Cork, Ireland, as I said. Spike Island's history is one of continual reinnovation, shaped by Ireland's changing political, religious, and social realities. Located strategically in Cork Harbour, the island has served as a place of worship, defense, imprisonment, exile, and reform, making it one of the most historically complex sites in all of Ireland. So, early history. The earliest recorded use of Spike Island dates to approximately 635 AD. That's quite a while ago, right? That's when it functioned as a monastic settlement. At this time, Ireland was renowned across Europe for its monasteries, which served not only as religious centers but also as hubs of learning, agriculture, and manuscript preservation. The island's isolation made it ideal for monastic life. Monks sought spiritual closeness to God through seclusion, prayer, and labor, and Spike Island would have supported small-scale farming, fishing, and religious instruction. Though no physical structures from this period survive, historical references confirm the presence of a monastery, placing Spike Island within Ireland's broader early Christian tradition. The sacred place is crucial to understanding the island's later identity. A place once dedicated to peace and contemplation would, over time, become synonymous with control, punishment, and confinement. Let's jump ahead a little bit in time. Following the Norman invasion of Ireland in the late 12th century, monastic communities across the country began to decline. Spike Island appears to have lost its religious function during this period and remained largely undeveloped for several centuries. However, Cork's harbor's importance as a natural deep-water port increasingly drew the attention of military planners. By the early modern period, the harbor was recognized as one of the finest naval anchorages in Europe. Control of Cork Harbor meant control of Southern Ireland's maritime access, trade routes, and defenses. Though Spike Island itself was not heavily fortified during this era, it was increasingly viewed as a potential military asset, particularly as tensions between European powers intensified. We get a little bit to the 18th century. The transition of Spike Island began in earnest in the late 18th century, during a period of heightened conflict involving Britain, France, and Spain. Fear of a French invasion, especially after the American War of Independence, led the British Crown to strengthen coastal defenses throughout Ireland. In 1779, construction began on Fort Mitchell, named after Major General John Mitchell. The fort was designed as a star-shaped defensive structure capable of housing artillery batteries, barracks, and supply stores. Its location allowed it to command the entrance to Cork Harbor, making it a key element in Britain's defensive network. Life on the island during this period resembled that of a fortified town. Soldiers, officers, wives, and children lived within the walls. There were workshops, schools, and gardens, and the island supported a self-contained military community. At this stage, Spike Island was not yet a prison, but a symbol of imperial defense and military power. Into the 19th century, and there's a shift to incarceration. Spike Island's darkest chapter began in the 1840s when it was converted into a convict depot. This change coincided with the Great Irish Famine, which was 1845 to 1849, a catastrophic event that devastated the population and overwhelmed Ireland's prison system. Thousands were imprisoned for minor crimes, such as stealing food, committed out of desperation. Spike Island became a holding facility for convicts awaiting transportation to penal colonies such as Australia, Bermuda, and Van Diemen's Land, so known as Tasmania. By the mid-19th century, Spike Island had become the largest prison in the British Isles, holding over 2,000 inmates at a time, and conditions were notoriously brutal. Prisoners were housed in overcrowded communal cells. Disease, including cholera and typhus, spread rapidly. Diets were insufficient and nutritionally poor. Harsh discipline included solitary confinement and hard labor. Punishment cells, small, dark, and damp, were used to enforce obedience. Mortality rates were high, particularly during the famine years, and many prisoners were buried in unmarked graves on the island. Spike Island earned its grim reputations such as Hell on Earth and later Ireland's Alcatraz, reflecting both its physical isolation and the suffering endured within its walls. As Ireland moved toward political upheaval, Spike Island became a site of political imprisonment. Nationalists, rebels, and suspected activists were detained here, particularly during the periods of unrest. During the Irish War of Independence from 1919 to 1921, hundreds of Irish Republicans were interred on Spike Island without trial. Some prisoners organized resistance within the prison, and at least one successful escape further cemented the island's reputation as a symbol of British repression. The island thus became entwined with Ireland's struggle for independence, representing both imperial authority and national resistance. Following the establishment of the Irish Free State, Spike Island did not immediately lose its function. It remained under British control until 1938, when the treaty ports, including Cork Harbour, were returned to Ireland. Even then, the island continued to be used for military and correctional purposes. In the mid-20th century, it served as a training base for the Irish Defence Forces, and later as a youth detention center. Conditions at the youth prison were controversial, and tensions culminated in a major riot in 1985, during which several buildings were badly damaged by fire. This event marked the beginning of the end for Spike Island as an active correctional facility. By the early 2000s, Spike Island was effectively abandoned. Decay set in, and many feared the island's history would be lost. However, in 2011, Cork County Council acquired the island and began a comprehensive restoration project. The goal was not to erase the past, but to preserve it. Fort Mitchell, prison blocks, tunnels, and defensive walls were stabilized and opened to the public. Today, Spike Island operates as a heritage and tourism site, offering guided tours that explore its many historic phases. Spike Island's history mirrors Ireland's own journey, from early Christianity to colonial rule, famine, rebellion, and independence. Few places encapsulate such a broad spectrum of human experience within a single landscape. Its evolution from monastery to fortress to prison underscores how geography, power, and politics shape the use of space. The island stands today not only as a tourist destination, but as a physical recording of centuries of Irish resilience, suffering, and transformation. There's a lot of history there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of stuff.
So let me just throw a couple things up here. Bert said that his family is from Cork.
Cool.
And that his second great grandfather lived through that and immigrated to the U.S. in the 1850s. So we were talking about just before the modern history. He went through that. So interesting times to be there, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I think what he's speaking to is the famine.
Mm-hmm.
In the mid 1800s or 1840s. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's 4 or 5 years there of just barely surviving.
Yeah. So anyway, just wanted to share that before you moved on.
Very cool. All right, now I lost my place. Yeah, it should not take long to find. All right. So let's talk about the paranormal, right? So that we wouldn't be Paranormal Lens without it. So Spike Island's reputation as one of Ireland's most haunted locations is inseparable from its long history of imprisonment, isolation, and suffering. Unlike castles or houses associated with a single tragedy, Spike Island's paranormal reputation is rooted in centuries of cumulative human experience, making it a focal point for reported supernatural phenomena. While these occurrences remain unverified, the consistency and nature of the accounts have contributed to a distinct body of folklore and paranormal narrative unique to the island. And one of the things that distinguishes Spike Island from many haunted locations is the absence of a single defining ghost story. Instead, reports describe an environment that feels persistently watched, unsettled, or emotionally heavy. Visitors and staff frequently speak of sudden senses of unease upon entering certain areas, particularly former prison blocks, underground tunnels, and punishment cells. This has led some researchers to describe Spike Island not as a place haunted by individual spirits, but as a site marked by what is often referred to as residual haunting, a phenomenon in which intense historical events are believed to leave an imprint on a location rather than manifest as conscious entities. Now, there are some reoccurrences, so let's speak to that directly. Despite the general nature of many reports, several recurring figures appear consistently in accounts over the decades. The first is the gaunt soldier. One of the most frequently cited apparitions is that of a thin, uniformed soldier seen near the fortifications and parade grounds. Descriptions often emphasize unnatural stillness, a rigid posture, and facial features that appear indistinct or shadowed. Notably, sightings of this figure have been reported by both civilians and military personnel during different periods of the island's use, lending the story a sense of continuity. There are silhouettes. Within the former prison wings, witnesses report seeing shadowy human forms standing at the end of corridors or seated on cell bunks. These figures are usually silent and vanish when approached. The repetition of this specific imagery, cells, doorways, and corridor thresholds, mirrors the lived reality of incarceration on the island, reinforcing the psychological power of place. And as you can imagine, there's lots of auditory phenomenon going on.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Auditory, auditory experiences are among the most commonly reported paranormal occurrences on Spike Island, and these include footsteps echoing in empty corridors, metallic sounds resembling cell doors or chains, indistinct murmuring or whispered voices, and sudden knocks or bangs in sealed areas. Importantly, these sounds are often reported in areas where wind acoustics alone cannot easily account for them, such as underground passageways or internal stone chambers. Some staff members have noted that these sounds occur most frequently during quiet periods, particularly in the early morning or late evening. There are physical sensations and environmental changes. Many visitors report sudden and localized physical sensations, including sharp drops in temperature, feelings of pressure or breathlessness, dizziness or disorientation, and a sense of being followed. These sensations are often reported near punishment cells and isolation chambers, spaces historically associated with extreme psychological distress. While skeptics attribute such feelings to environmental factors or suggestion, the consistency of reports across different visitors suggests a strong emotional response tied to the historical use of these spaces. There are photographic and digital anomalies as well. In recent years, Spike Island has become a focal point for alleged paranormal evidence captured through modern technology. Visitors have shared photographs and recorded showing shadow-like forms not seen at the time the image was taken, unexplained light anomalies, anomalies, gosh, whew, I was doing so well there for a minute. Unexplained light anomalies in dark corridors, and audio recordings containing faint sounds not heard during the recording. Sounds like every investigation we've ever gone to, right?
Correct. Yep.
Ugh. While experts frequently attribute these to lighting conditions, dust particles, or technical interference, the persistence of such claims has contributed to the island's modern haunted reputation, particularly in the online communities. So, from an academic perspective, the paranormal reputation of Spike Island can be interpreted as a cultural response to historical trauma. The island confined tens of thousands of individuals, many unjustly imprisoned or subject to inhumane conditions. The stories of hauntings may function as a way of acknowledging suffering that was once ignored or normalized. The physical environment itself reinforces this response. Thick stone walls, narrow corridors, low light, and isolation from the mainland create sensory conditions that heighten emotional awareness. In such spaces, the past feels unusually close. blurring the boundary between memory and imagination. Today, paranormal narratives play an important role in Spike Island's identity as a heritage site. Guided tours often include ghost stories along historical facts, not to sensationalize the past, but to engage visitors emotionally with the experience of those who lived and died there. Whether viewed as genuine supernatural phenomenon or symbolic echoes of historical suffering, the paranormal dimension of Spike Island deepens public engagement with its past. The hauntings serve as reminders that history is not only recorded in documents and ruins, but also in the emotional and psychological legacy left behind. To conclude, Spike Island stands as one of Ireland's most complex and emotionally charged historical sites, a place where centuries of human experience have layered meaning upon meaning. From its early beginnings as a secluded monastic settlement, as a transformation, to its transformation into a formidable military fortress, and later into one of the largest and harshest prisons in all the British Isles, the island's history is defined by isolation, control, and endurance. Each phase of its development reflects broader themes within Irish history, including colonization, famine, punishment, resistance, and eventual independence. The island's reputation for paranormal activity cannot be separated from its past. The stories of apparitions, unexplained sounds, and unsettling sensations emerge most strongly in spaces where suffering was once concentrated: prison cells, punishment blocks, and underground tunnels. Whether these experiences are interpreted as genuine supernatural phenomenon or as psychological responses to an environment steeped in trauma, they serve to reinforce the emotional weight of the island's history. The so-called hauntings function as echoes of lived experiences, reminding visitors that the past is not easily contained within walls or dates. In this way, Spike Island exists at the intersection of documented history and the collective memory. Its ghost stories do not replace historical fact. Instead, they deepen public engagement with it. The paranormal narratives encourage reflection on the thousands of lives shaped, confined, and in many cases lost on the island. They transform Spike Island from a static heritage site into a living reminder of the human cost of imprisonment and power. Today, as Spike Island welcomes visitors from around the world, it stands not only as a monument to Ireland's past, but also as a symbol of how history continues to resonate. Whether one walks its corridors seeking knowledge, reflection, or mystery, the island leaves a lasting impression. Spike Island endures as a place where history is not only remembered, but felt, and where the boundary between the past and the present remains hauntingly thin. We cite some sources and we'll discuss. First is spikeislandcork.ie, corkco.ie/en/visitor/Cork County Council owned and supported attractions/Spike Island, Ireland.com/en-us/things to do attractions Spike Island, theirishroadtrip.com/Spike Island, amy'scrypt.com/haunted Spike Island, Cork, Ireland, faroutmagazine.co.uk, British Isles biggest prison, moonmausoleum.com, the haunting of Spike Island, msn.com/en-us TV news, what horrifying presence is haunting Ireland's most brutal former prison, and lastly, one of my favorite sites, spookyisles.com/Spike Island. All right, so a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but there was no woman in white, Jamie, unless I missed
No,
it.
No, there's not. And
that's a
that's what I thought
first.
was. I thought this was really interesting. Well, it isn't. It isn't. I mean, there are definitely places without it, but and in so many places, the woman in white is just that anomalous thing you can't understand, right? So it
Hmm.
has to be a woman, and it has to be somebody in a dress.
Hmm.
It's so common, right? Here, I think part of the depth is that it was only occupied by families during the window where it was a military fortification, when it was Fort Mitchell. As it went on to become the prison that it was largely for the last third of its life, families were gone by that point. And even when it was, there probably weren't as many families there as there may have been in other fortifications, other sites, like
Right.
barracks and bases. Um, yeah, well, here's Bert's comment. I'll tell how I know they're going when their next trip over, but I'll tell Heather to wear a white dress when we go. Okay,
Yeah, but you don't want to leave her there like that,
it's
Bert.
true.
No,
Yeah, we don't want
no.
to do that.
Well, maybe he does. I don't know. Hmm. All right, now we're all accomplices if he does. Great, thanks, Bert. Um, it takes you there though. Like it feels like there should be the stock things, and there
Mm,
really isn't. At least not much of it. Um, it took me. The Gaunt Soldier took me back to the Fort of Good Hope
right.
episode a couple weeks ago. There's a soldier there as well. And um, the the posture and the kind of vertical precision that or does it, yeah, well said, Heather. um, it kind of it assumes that it's a military presence, and of course because there was an occupation of the island by the military, it makes you believe it should be, but we don't know for sure.
Right.
It could be a monk,
Right.
from monastery times.
Right.
It could be a lot of things through the
Yeah,
years.
I think we don't take into account things like a monastery, and that's a different type of energy.
Mhm.
But it was pure energy being put back into where the solitude, and that energy had to go somewhere. They weren't talking to people. They were if they had a vow of silence or things like that. But it was just there was such solitude that that energy had to go somewhere, and it probably went into this structure, or it's not there anymore. But you know what I mean. It like that energy became part of the land, and um, the thing, I think it's just an interesting thing that we never think about. Monasteries probably have a lot of residual energy.
Yeah, I would think so. And
Yeah.
the intentionality and
Hmm.
the commitment given
Hmm.
by those who practiced at these locations. The energy has to still be, well, it has to be somewhere, right?
Right.
And it just as prisoners go into life terms, and this is a bad connection here. I'm sorry, but it just this is the dots in my head.
Yeah. No, I know where you're going.
When you go into the monastery, you're there for life. It's not imprisonment by any means. It's certainly not a punishment, but you are there, and you will pass there.
Hmm.
So, in its time of being a monastic location, I would have to imagine that there are several who passed there, especially over all the years that it was.
Hmm.
So, and I guess folks do, for lack of a better term, get transferred or get to move between monasteries depending on the system and the faith. But, realistically, someone has had to pass there as well. So perhaps there is still a presence because of it.
Hmm.
It goes back. I mean,
Yeah.
600, 635 AD is a long time ago, in the scale of time. So there's a lot of history here.
Yeah.
I want to add one more piece to it, and this is a slight fun fact, if I may.
Okay.
Let's go back to April of 1912. Um, think about a time in history where a very large sailing vessel left England heading west, called the Titanic. Its last port of call was Queenstown, which is now Cove, which is in the harbor.
Hmm.
April 11th of 1912 specifically. Well, she did not dock at a pier. Instead, the Titanic anchored in Cork Harbor near Roach's Point. And the passengers that boarded her there were ferried out. This anchorage being within Cork Harbor is very, very close to Spike Island. And the island sits about 2 or 3 kilometers away, depending on how far you think it is. But that's the general assumption, because the exact anchorage spot wasn't marked. On a clear day, large ships anchored in the harbor can be seen from parts of Spike Island, specifically the fort's ramparts, the elevated outdoor areas, and the island's perimeter walls. Considering the Titanic was an enormous ship, even by modern standards, she
Hmm.
was visible from the shoreline. She would have been visible from certain spots on Spike Island. I want you guys to think about the division between luxury and cruelty.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's not lost here. So now, I don't know that people would have known on the island that it was the Titanic and all that it was, but there was a lot of hoopla around the ship and
Mm-hmm.
its launching. And of course, 3 days later, there it goes.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, the rest is history.
Right.
So I think that's an interesting connection, not a paranormal one per se,
Right.
but uh, called a fun fact.
Hmm. So Heather had a comment here that they did imprison women there also during the famine,
Mhm.
but I doubt that they were wearing white dresses. Probably not.
Probably not.
Um, and Heather also said Cabana is Cobb. I'm not. The
I'm going to go
pronunciation
with that.
is absolutely beautiful. The church there is amazing, and the dock is still there, but it is all broken down.
Sure.
So
Yeah, and even getting out to the island, it is a ferry or a boat. There's no bridge still to this point, and or there is a helipad right in the middle of the island. If you prefer the dramatic approach, but that's how you get in and out, and it's not it's Cove. It's pronounced Cove. Thank you.
yeah, sorry.
Um, and I apologize to all our Irish friends. So with respects to it, you can see land, from the island too. So just like Alcatraz for us, and hence it's Ireland's Alcatraz, being in the harbor in San Francisco, it's right there is freedom, right?
Right,
And it's like it's staring at you every day, every time you go out to that side of the island.
right,
Um,
but
but
it's not.
but it's not right. The distance, the tides, there's a lot of things that are keeping you on that island, and with one escape, very much a challenge to get off and away. And once by the time you would reach land, it would be known that you've escaped as well. With access to technologies to let the law enforcement know you're coming. So even to get to land wouldn't mean you're safe and you're free to escape. It's fascinating.
Hmm.
And we've been. I think of uh, Fort Mifflin a lot. A star fort. And not a grand location. As far as amenities and so forth. Life even in the military era would have been hard. And most of the island has been deforested to create the environment. So, and in the winter months, anything you needed to burn would have been brought. All the
Right,
supplies would have had to be ferried over. Um, you know, Foul weather, all kinds of issues that would cause a ship, a supply ship, their boat to not get there.
right,
Been a hardship. There was probably no good time to be there. Certainly, the famine, era was catastrophic for all of Ireland, and um, even if they would have been farming on the island, the challenges would have been the same, and so
hmm,
forth. But it's just it's a place that just probably should have never been developed. You know, just that patch of land, but because of where it's located, at the mouth of the harbor and a prime location for defense, therefore it had to become a fort.
right.
And,
And
and if we wouldn't have beat up on the British so badly, they wouldn't have been so worried about France by that point. At the end of the revolution, may not would have happened anyway.
hmm.
So we have a small part in this.
Yeah, it's again, this is one of those places that has had multiple lives
Mm-hmm.
and has turned, and so you expect as a paranormal investigator, I'd look at those places as expecting to have layers of hauntings in history, and and it's just it makes it a cool place to explore.
Yeah,
Um,
this is one of those places too where we it wouldn't be. I guess I can't say it like that, but it would be an injustice to think you could get there and do it once and be done and got it all.
right,
This is a place that you would need to go to several times over just to get the full depth and breadth of all of it, and probably just to see it all for that matter as well. That's the disadvantage for us for the most part when we get to go to a place. We're usually there for the day or the evening, the night, whatever the
right,
window is. And we try to glean as much of it as we can, perhaps in advance, to know history, but activity wise, it's not on demand. First
right,
of all, and two, what you and I as individuals might experience might be something uniquely different than someone else,
Right.
based on our energies and openness. So this is a place where I'd love to be able to go, but I wouldn't want to go just once. I want to keep going back.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying multiple road trips.
Multiple
road trips.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely is one of those places that it would be great to go visit. But I think you're right. It'd have to be multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So, or we book it for 2 weeks, like a TV show, and just
Yeah.
That's an expensive investigation.
Lottery tickets, guys. Got to buy lottery tickets.
I'll start doing that.
So no, it's definitely a cool space. Again, like you said, I had never heard of it. So yeah, I'm glad you brought it to us, Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
So happy to. It's just proof that there are places like this all over the world. And Europe is obviously older than us. So there's tons more history there, depth of history. But and this probably isn't unique overall in a sense of the places like it elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's heightened because of the nature of how the British Empire treated Ireland,
right,
and the resilience of the Irish people.
Mm-hmm.
And I have an Irish grandfather, so I'm going to speak proudly there to say that. But it is one of many. So hopefully we'll bring a lot more forward as we go through all of this. We talk about it all the time. The paranormal's everywhere.
Right, hidden in plain sight, as we referenced before on some of them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really grateful that the place is available to us all.
Right.
And not just for the museum part of it, the traditional sense, but also it is available for paranormal investigations. So fantastic that it is out there and we can go.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you know, is it open year round, or is it a seasonal, or?
It's lacking on environmental controls. So it is cold right now.
Mm-hmm.
So much like every place is, but there, you can go on the island pretty much daily. What it feels like at 2 a.m. is probably a different story than it does at 2 p.m. though. There's a comment from Bert. Been there twice and not even close to seeing everything. You would love it. The whole Emerald Isle has a feeling of oldness, pain, and suffering, but also triumph, overcoming, and home. Well said.
Neat.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to see if I can't squeeze myself in your suitcase next trip. And might be slightly overweight, but
we might all have to try that.
Well, at that point, do we just book a charter?
Again, lottery tickets.
Oh, okay.
That's a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Just buy a plane. It's fine.
Well, Bert's talked about being able to drive a bus, right?
Yeah.
Could he fly a plane? I think that's our next thing to task Bert with is.
I do have a friend who's a pilot.
Well, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere.
So, well, Jamie, very cool topic. Again, thank you for bringing it to our attention. And I'm looking forward to you bringing more like this then. So
absolutely.
That's what we do, guys.
Mm-hmm. Any more thoughts on this before we?
It says I can try. Oh boy.
We'll wait till you've tried a couple times before.
Yeah.
So
it's not the takeoff part; it's the landing.
Yeah.
So. And staying in the air.
Again, the landing.
Yeah.
So. Well, any more thoughts on this before we move on?
No, let's go.
Okay. Mm-mm. Well, but before we do that, I'm going to throw this comment up. Heather says, we would love to be your tour guides. It's really not that expensive. We spend less going to Ireland for 2 weeks than a week vacation in the States.
Okay.
So, noted.
That's an interesting perspective on it.
It is. So. I think I've said this to you before, guys, and if I haven't, I'm going to plug someplace locally. But we have an establishment here in Lancaster called Tell Us 360.
I love it.
Right. Irish Public House, fantastic. Staff is Irish, even. I mean, it's just crazy great. But they have, a direct connect to Ireland, and they utilize a travel service, a travel booking service, to send folks over on tours. So you pay for it, of course.
Mhm.
You have to cover your airfare, but then you get a package, and you have a choice between north or south. But you pretty much come into Dublin, and from there you catch a bus, and the bus takes you across country, and then the southern route takes you south and down around the bottom and through Cork and all, and back up again in like a week. And then the north takes you across the country and up and over to Northern Ireland. So you do cross the border, and then you're stopping at places along the way. You're staying in the villages and towns that are on the route. And I've looked at this so many times through the years, and I have so many friends who've done it, and they're like, you got to do it.
Mhm.
Cost is really reasonably ridiculous, and therefore, I think Heather's point is well made. It's just the airfare, and of course, you have to have a passport. You can't just show up.
Right.
Well, you probably could show up, you just couldn't get back, and maybe that's not so bad these days. I don't know. No comment, no intentional comment there, but so realistically, and if you know where to go and what to do, with plans,
Mhm.
and I'm certainly sure it can be a reasonable experience. So, yeah, and what is reasonable when you have an opportunity for a once in a lifetime experience like this too. Sometimes you
Hmm.
have to spend a little to do it. So, anyone on the fence, I'm hoping you go and tell us all about it when you get back.
Yep.
We'll live vicariously until we can get there ourselves.
Absolutely.
So, well, very cool. So,
All right. So, what's coming up?
Oh,
Kirstin?
yeah, that's me. That's right. I know. Listen, it's been a weekend. Um, so January 6th is going to be my presentation on the hauntings of Hampton Court Palace. It's going to be really fun. Still kind of staying overseas.
Cool.
And then next up, we have Gavel and Ghost: Paranormal Cases in the Law on January 20th. January 27th, I'm gonna mispronounce this. I'm not gonna lie. The glowing people of Barranco de Badajoz.
Yeah, let's roll with it.
Sure. February 3rd is The Man, the Myth, the Mothman. February 10th, Elemental Echoes, Ancient Forces, and Modern Encounters.
So, yep. I'm going to dig into elemental spirits that day and see what I can come up with.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, cool.
So,
All right.
all right.
We do have the Hanover Tavern Paracon coming up on January 30th to 31st. We're going to be there with a bunch of our other friends, so that'll be fun. It's with Steve Dills. I believe Ron and Lourdes will also be there. It's going to be a lot of fun people that are going to be there to come see.
Yep. You can check that out on the Hanover Tavern Paracon Facebook page. And they have a website as well. Tickets are available. Investigation tickets are going fast, I believe you said, Jamie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So the Paracon is being a 2-day event. There's just general admission to the Paracon, but then there is a special investigation Saturday evening. I believe it's 9 to 2 a.m. or so. That is a separate ticketed event, and that is limited capacity. So there is still double digits, as I checked earlier today, but they're starting to go. And of course, as we get closer, they'll go faster, as all events always do. But if you're at all going to be in the area and interested in the event itself, I recommend the investigation. I'm going to take part in it. I can say that much. I'm not sure about you guys yet, but it is something I'm very looking forward. I haven't been to the Hanover Tavern yet, so I'm really looking forward to being there in the first place because of the historical presence. And Steve and Chris were on a while back and did an episode on it for us as guest hosts. Um, and that seeded it for me at that point. I knew Chad, you were down to the Paracon a couple of years ago as
Yep.
well, and been in the area more frequently than I, just with connections. But it's a great crossing of, like, a usual thing. It's a cross of paranormal and history things that we all love so much,
Hmm.
all three of us. So I'm excited to get us there and experience all of it.
Yeah. The one restored room is just amazing. So you're gonna love it. So,
Perfect. Well,
but but
I'm
anyway,
not wishing days away, but come on 30th.
uh-huh. So all right.
Uh, Ways to get in contact with us. You can go to our website, www.jotnixparanormal.com. You can also email us if you have any suggestions for any stories that you want us to do. We will do them if they get emailed. So you can email us at paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com. We also have a link tree that will take you to a shop, so you can buy some of our nice little ghost things. That is linktree.ee at Paranormal Lens. That's linktr.ee/Paranormal Lens. Also, we have a new thing, Buy Me Coffee. Um, Chad will probably know a bit more about Buy Me Coffee.
Yeah, buy me a coffee is a way for people who are producing things like this to get some support from their listeners and viewers, just to help bring some of the costs down. What we do isn't free. There's a cost to the streaming services and some of the research and some stuff like that. So we're just seeing if we can get some support out there to help cover those costs and keep us going without having to have sponsors who are pushing their message to you. So we're trying to keep this in house and among ourselves. So if you can, if you like what we're doing, we just buy us a coffee. Anything will help, and we appreciate it. If it doesn't fit in your life right now, that's okay. We will keep doing this as best we can. So,
Yep.
but if you can, we appreciate it. So. I think that's a good way of putting it, Jamie. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And just to explain how to do it, it's
Mhm.
buymeacoffee.com/paranormal9. And if
Mhm.
you're watching us, there's a QR code on the screen as well. So you can click that and get you there if you're interested.
Mhm.
Appreciate it and your support.
All right. Um, I think that's about it for the week, isn't it?
Yeah, I
I
think
think so.
so. It's
So
it all flies by so fast.
it
Mm-hmm.
it does, yeah. So, any sorry, I'm realizing. Yeah, I did update the ending. So, just making
Okay.
sure. Uh, any final thoughts?
This was a fun one to research, and I appreciate it. Obviously, you have a choice. I put it on the schedule, right? Because we self-produce, but um, the key to
What?
success right there, and that's also part of the reason why, we don't want to sponsor necessarily because we're not going to be told what we can and can't do, right?
Right. Mhm.
Freedom, but uh, it's near to me because of it's my own family, and it is important for all of us to recognize where history has come from. So I appreciate the opportunity to cover the topic, and um, thanks for listening, everybody out there.
Yeah. And like I said, you did a great job with it, Jamie. Thank you for taking it on and bringing it to us.
Sure.
Um, So, just to wrap it up, when a place holds this much fear and isolation, it's fair to ask what truly moves on and what doesn't. Spike Island leaves that question unanswered. So, until next time, stay alert, stay respectful, and stay curious. Good night, everybody. See you next week.